Hello and welcome to Top Contractor School Podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but to create a lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy, Director of Learning and Development at TCS. Joining me today, a very special guest. Should know this lovely smiling face all the way from Maryland, right? Miss Sandra Albert. And she is going to chat it up today with us. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And for those of you that aren't familiar, but you've played a crucial role in your position, but you also play a crucial role inside of TCS and what we're going to be talking about, TCS Women, which is just really like officially launched back in January. And I want to get into that as well. But I want you to just give people that don't typically tune in to the podcast just a brief background of you and Bay County, if you would.
Sure. Well, my background, I'm kind of a chameleon, a little bit of real estate, a little bit of hair, collection agency, and now construction. So I've been a little bit all over the place. I've been with Bay Country now 2.5 years. I serve as vice president there. So newer to the construction industry. So, I'm learning as I go. But, I've taken all of my experience, from being an entrepreneur myself to taking it into this role as vice president of Bay Country. And we're killing it over here.
Yeah. What made you kind of decide to move into construction?
So it really wasn't my choice. I think God was like trying to get my attention, and I wasn't really paying attention to the signs. And there was like flashing caution tape everywhere. And I was just like going through life like, no, God, this is what I'm doing. I'm in the collection world. I've been here for almost 10 years. I own my own agency. And it really, honestly, that industry was really hurting. The collection laws changed according to each administration in the White House. And so the industry itself was kind of struggling. And then COVID hit. And from COVID, a lot of new regulations came out. And in those new regulations, I ended up getting a lawsuit. And with the advice of my attorneys, they were like, hey, shut it down. So that was hard for me because I'd run this business for 10 years. When I purchased the business, there had been people that had worked for my agency for, 20 plus years. So I was laying off a full staff, some of them single moms. And it was a really hard time for me. So I shut the agency down. 10 days after I shut the agency down, I was let out of my lawsuit. But I was kind of at this crossroads of like, I'd shut the business down. Could I stay in the collection industry? That's everything I know. I still serve on the licensing board for Maryland, so I am appointed by the governor. I do help oversee and regulate collection agencies. So I still have a part of it, but like I knew that wasn't really the industry I needed to stay in. And I knew God was trying to direct me into a new path. And that's when I kind of put something out there on Facebook, like, hey, like I'm looking for something, not really sure what I'm looking for. And Daniel reached out to me, the owner of Bay Country, and was like, hey, he and I went to high school together. We remained friends. But he was like, I have this opportunity and, I'd like to sit down and talk with you about it. And I'm going to tell you, Eric, my initial reaction was like, construction? Yeah, I'm thinking like, financial analyst somewhere, living out my days as a government contractor. And so we sat down, we talked, and he put his vision and his core values and just laid everything out for me. And we talked. It was like a 4-hour meeting, and I still wasn't bought in. I was not bought in. And I came home and I prayed about it, and I really felt God was just saying to me, like, you want to make an impact. You want to change lives. Well, this is how you're going to do it. And so no other doors were opening for me.
Hmm.
So I called Daniel and I was like, well, here I come. Absolutely no experience included in this role, but sure, I'll step in. So I did. I stepped in as vice president, and that's where I am today. And it's not been an easy role. It's not, obviously as a woman in construction, that has its own challenges. Stepping into a role of an executive level, leading a team that knew I didn't have any construction experience. So it's been a very difficult and challenging road for sure.
Yeah, so lots of challenges, lots of opportunity, lots of ways to understand leadership and things like that. Yeah, I think it's just a pretty crazy journey. And obviously, we're glad you're on board with doing some things with TCS. I know D Good is really happy with what's going on. At least the last time I talked to him, he was still very happy. But
Yeah. It's construction. It's ever evolving. I'm going to tell you that there's nothing that's you start your day in construction and you have a plan and this is where we're going to go and this is what we're going to accomplish and these are the items we're going to get completed today, and it never ever ends that way. Just never, you never get from point A to point B without any fires. So in construction, it's ever evolving. You're constantly making decisions on the fly. And so you have to really be in tune with your team, in tune with your vendors, in tune with your clients, because it's not an easy industry to be a part of.
yeah, um, especially like we're just gonna jump in here and breaking the barriers. That's what I want to talk about too, because uh, one of the things that we're trying to do, even inside of TCS, with your help and the help of others that we'll have on the podcast as well, but uh, your experience, not just in an industry where you had no experience, but in an industry that is heavily and has been for years dominated by males. What's been your experience with that? Good, bad, or otherwise?
You know, so I'll tell you that just last week I was at a pre-construction meeting and I had brought a project manager with me. He will not be the project manager on this job, but I brought him with me, kind of as like some moral support. And we're sitting at this project, and one of the other trades asked, who's going to project manage this job? And I said, I am. And they looked at my project manager, who's a male, and said, are you going to be on the job? And he said, no. And the disappointment that was on their face that they were going to have a female-led project manager, it was awful. And you just run into it, right? It's like automatically assume that here's a woman, she can't nearly have the experience that a man does. And she probably doesn't know what she's talking about. She may not even know the sequence of events, just trying to challenge me, honestly. And, I bring it right back to them. So do I know all the answers? No, but I have a team that supports me and provides me with the knowledge that I need. So yeah, it's challenging. I can walk onto a job site and have an instant judgment of, oh, here she comes. She's not going to know. And I'm really good at proving myself, and I'm really good at pushing back. I am the face of Bay Country. So like when it comes to doing pre-construction meetings or contract negotiations or things, men are not used to having a female be the main face that they see when you're entering into these things. Like they're kind of blown away. And I have to kind of like, I almost sound like I'm a Rottweiler. I really have the bite of a Chihuahua, but I have to show up big, tough, and strong. And that is hard. That is hard because in this industry, a female is not the face of a company. A female is not a normal project manager. When you think of females in this industry, it's always in the back office. we're to be heard, not seen. And I think that's really where this industry is going. You're going to see a whole lot more of these females, on the front lines, whether it's running equipment, whether it's your project managers, whether it's your contracts, like you're just going to see a whole lot more of us. So I think that's really, kind of my goal with TCS Women is to provide the support because this industry it's not very welcoming of women at the moment, but I think that's changing every day.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, even before I got involved with TCS, I mean, I do a lot of, there's quite a few women in construction that I just personally coach as well. And some of the bigger construction companies that I work with, yeah, they say the same things, but I think one of the things that I want to get back to with you, um, as far as looking at not having a chip on your shoulder, like, I don't know that I didn't know the industry. I'm a woman, it's a tough industry for all females. Yeah, 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 yeah. But what you have done and what I've seen the other ladies inside of TCS and the ones that I in these other fine ladies in construction that I have the privilege and honor of coaching, uh, they take that chip off their shoulder somehow and keep moving forward. So that's what I want to ask you. How have you done that?
Yeah, I'm
And
going to
really
tell you,
stayed positive because you've stayed pretty, I think you've stayed pretty positive, right?
yeah, I mean, I take every experience as like, a learning experience. You have to lead almost with a sense of um I don't want to use the word arrogance, but it's almost like kind of what you have to do. You have to come out like a bull in a china shop because if not, the world is going to eat you up in construction. So, you're speaking with confidence. Mentorship, I think, is really key in partnering with, different advisors in the industry on how to handle certain situations. I think Daniel's played a huge role in building my confidence and educating me and taking that time to pour into me. So, like, mentorship is a key thing to have with women in construction because we bring the empathy, right? I love everyone and I serve my team, but I'm not gonna lie, like I get my feelings hurt a lot, right? And men don't, you know what I mean? They don't, like, when I'm firing somebody, I'm crying more than necessarily the employee, and so I've really kind of learned that there's just a time and like a place of like where a woman brings the empathy and where she has the role to bring all the love. And then there's the time where you have to put those emotions away and you have to be, kind of be hardcore. I think learning, a lot of your technical skills, reading blueprints, that's something that I'm really focusing on because I want to be able that when I'm on a job site, I'm pulling out those blueprints and I can read those blueprints like everyone else can. That is like a skilled trade to have to learn. Taking courses on project management. There's a lot of ways that you can really improve your role as a woman in construction.
Yeah. And I think that's what we, kind of what we bring to the table here in making that shift. How do you see that shift going, like in the next 3 to 5, maybe even 10 years, especially as far as women go? Because I was actually just down, was it 2 weeks ago, with a construction company in Alabama. They were doing a retreat, and yeah, I wouldn't say half, but I would say close to 40%, if I'm doing the numbers right. Uh, that room was women in that company, right?
That's
So they've
awesome.
they've got some, and two of their heavy hitters are both female. Like they're like they're sales leaders, and they have that you talk about, right? They have the empathy side. They say a lot of the same things, but where do you see it going? Because I did ask them too, but I'm wondering where you see it going in the next few years.
It's funny is that I met with someone a couple weeks ago and they said to me, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself with Bay Country? Do you see yourself moving on to a much larger, construction company? And the way that it was portrayed to me was that, Sandra, I could get you a job tomorrow making $250,000 a year sitting in an executive seat at a large, construction company. And while that sounds great, what that doesn't do is it's like putting me in a role. And this is what I see happening in the industry is like the industry is like, oh my gosh, we need women. We need women to serve an executive role. It's not that like we're hiring her because of her skills. It's because we want a woman to say that we have an executive level person on our, I'm sorry, my dog. We want an executive level person to serve, in our company. And what my response was? That I could take on a role like that, but how am I going to change lives? How am I going to change lives when I'm sitting so far at the top? And that's something that I love about Bay Country. And when I came on to the team, I said, look, my job is to change your life. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to provide great benefits. I'm going to provide you a family-friendly environment. And I'm going to get projects that are going to benefit us financially that, most of these men don't have college educations. They may not even have high school, diplomas. Where can they go with that lack of education and make six figures? Like, where can they do that? Mm-hmm. It's very, very, very difficult to do that in today's world. So that's what I've said to my team. I want to change your life. And in return, you change someone else's life. And so if I can provide financial, stability and wonderful benefits, then I'm making an impact. I'm making a difference. Sitting at the top of someone's construction company just because I'm a female, that's not where I want to go. At some point, I think that as my role evolves in Bay Country, that may be the case that, I said hire and collect a larger salary, but I always want to make sure that I'm changing lives. So I think when you talk about women and where are we going in the industry, I do think there's a need and I do think that we're wanted. I just don't want women to go somewhere just so they can say, well, we've got females on board. You know what I mean? I think that if you take any successful construction company and you follow it back home, it's women that are already there. We're running your payroll, we're running your HR, we're running your AP, we're running your AR. So we're already in the industry, but we're behind closed doors. You're not seeing them out in the field. And that's the difference that you're going to see is that there are women here, they're just not seen. So I think you're going to start seeing women in project management a whole lot more. I can tell you several projects I've had this year where I had female-led project management from other general contractors. And I think you're going to start to see people like myself really start to influence the younger generation. Like construction's not talked about in high school and presented to these females. It's just not, so it's advocating for these younger girls to say, hey, trade school isn't just for boys. Trade school can be for women too. And I think it's getting involved in your local community and starting to really, touch that younger generation that there are career opportunities for you in the blue collar world.
Yeah, and great opportunities too. And let's transition there. You talked about making impact for people. Let's talk about, leadership in the industry. Like what leadership strategies have helped you succeed? You talked about Daniel, right? And kind of helping you along. What has helped you really succeed in your role so far?
Really strong communication skills. I think, being able to convey and to my teams, to my subcontractors, being a great active listener has helped me become a great leader. Decision making under pressure. That is, like I was explaining earlier, a lot of things have to be made on the fly. Construction's full of surprises. You need to be able to make quick decisions. You need to weigh the risks. You need to understand how to keep projects moving, when there's a shortage. I have a job right now where we are on our next phase for concrete, and the concrete plant that we were buying concrete from has entered into major projects, and they basically said, your project's too small. We can't bring you concrete. And like, we can't bring you concrete for several months.
Mm.
Excuse me. So I have had to scramble. And so it's like, okay, I'll go to the next big guy. Same thing. Sorry, we can't help you with concrete. I go to the next guy. We're not even taking on any new customers. So it's like things that you have planned, like who thinks you can't get concrete? Like that's
Yeah.
a substance that you can get anywhere. What do you mean I can't get it? This is a major Northern Virginia area. What do you mean? Like I'm not out in the boondocks. Like this is big time. But like as these projects come, the larger projects, they get priority. And my project, the amount that I need for this second phase isn't as big as what I needed from the first phase. So again, leadership is being able to like make decisions, move on your feet. Another thing that makes me a good leader is budgeting, knowing, what's the cost, how much is, being able to project what our income is going to be, understanding that, are we profitable? What does that cash flow look like? Team building, being able to, build my team, because I can't go forward without having a successful team. And that goes all the way down to my laborers. And I try to explain that to people that the most important part of a construction company is actually starts at the bottom and not the top. So my guys that show up every day at 4 or 5 in the morning, my guys who are cleaning up the site, who are picking up the trash, who are laying the silt fence, that's where we start. It starts with the lowest guy. And those are my laborers. And so me building a good team starts at the foundation, and that starts with those guys of my laborers. Perseverance, being able to have lots of things thrown at me. I've talked in my podcast, I talked on my speech at TCS Women, like I've had some really hard things thrown at me, and it's challenged me and made me question really who I am, because I've been put into situations where, I have been really, really tested. So a lot of those things that make me a good leader. Safety, that's huge in our company. Being able to, provide, safety gear and equipment. The first thing that is going to tear a construction company apart is lack of trust. And I see that happen a lot, whether you're not paying on time, whether you're not providing the safety gear, you're not doing what you say you're going to do. It's that trust factor. And so safety is a big deal. I need to, if I want my guys to feel safe on a job, well, I need to give them all the gear and protection that they have, even though they lose it and they can't find their hard hat. And they need you to reissue them some more PPE safety vests. Like it's an argument that I could have, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like I'm here to protect my team. So, integrity, my reputation, that's very important to me. I think that's important in my team, is that transparency, like I don't have an answer for everything. My team has taught me a lot. I think that also is what has made me a successful leader, is that I can take the hard hat off and say, hey, I may serve as your vice president, but I need help with this. I don't know the answer, or, you've seen videos this year of me operating equipment. I will trade those heels in for work boots any day. So getting down and getting dirty with my team, like, just because I sit at an executive level, I never want to create that space. Like I want to be one with my team.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Before we forget, let's talk about TCS Women. What is that for folks that might be just tuning in for the first time? Because I think in the TCS world, everybody knows what that is. Maybe they don't. But people that don't know, what should they know?
So again, every single TCS member, you have females that work in your business of some kind. There's a female. So it is our job to round up all of those ladies, whether even if they don't work in the business, whether it's your wife, your spouse, your girlfriend, your cousin, your sister. TCS Women is about supporting women inside of the industry. And that goes from the business side to the family side. And so we are a group of, founding members that have come together, and we want to support these ladies in our community. So, we have our monthly podcast. We have our monthly call. On those calls, we have different topics that we like to talk about. And those topics are open to our members to say, what is it you need help with? Like, what are you struggling with as a woman? Is it emotions? Is it making accounting decisions? Like finding out the needs of the finding out the needs of the members and these women, and finding out like, how can I provide solutions for you? What training do you need? What technology do you need? What PPE do you need? What support group do you need that's local to you that you could go to for help? That's the community. It's very much just like how we run TCS, just a little girl, it's just a girls club.
Yeah. And it's exciting where it's going already.
It
It's
is
really
exciting. I want that. I want to feel like I can lean on women, right? And in this industry, we don't do that. I mean, outside of TCS, everyone's very secretive. Like, I have the secret sauce, but I don't want to share with you what's successful. And then when you come into TCS, we're like, oh, here's our playbook. This is how we're successful, right? And so, like, I want to do the same thing with women. Like, we do struggle, when your husband's an entrepreneur and you're taking the kids to school and daycare and you're running everything in the background because your husband's working 14 hours a day. Well, how do we support that? Like, what can we do, to encourage you? And then the women inside of the industry, it's like, for me, I dealt with filing my first claim on a payment bond. Well, that's not something I've ever had to do. I've always threatened to do it, but it was great because I called Carla and I was like, hi, like, I need help. And instantly, in 5 minutes, Eric, she sent me a copy of how she had filed hers. Like that, those resources are not something I can just pull off of Chat GPT.
Right.
That comes from community. And community is here together to build one another. And that is what TCS Women is all about.
Yeah. So last question here for you, or maybe more just a statement. Like, what would you actually tell women who are looking to get into construction right now? What advice would you give?
It's not an easy industry to get into. And it's honestly it's very intimidating. So, stepping into the industry, I want to tell women that they belong here.
Yeah.
That
good advice.
No matter where you come from, because I am the prime example, the chameleon who's been in all kinds of industry, but construction, you're welcome here. That the opportunities are endless, that there are people out there to support you, and that like we are paving the way for the next generation. Like, you're going to see women on the back of pavers. You're going to see women running bulldozers. Something that I feel like my mission that like gets misconstrued is that people are like, oh, you just want women to take over. No, no, no. I don't want women to take over, but we're here to support you. And there are lots of jobs that women necessarily may or may not be able to do. But I'll tell you what, like, we can do a lot. And we're here to support you. And when you put a woman in construction, like, it just brings the warmth and the joy to everything. It brings the family side together. Like, it's just, yeah. You are in control of your destiny. And no one is going to tell you that there is a gender role for you and it's not here.
Good stuff. Finally, how can people connect with you if they want to reach out to you and Bay Country?
So baycountrycontractors.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. My handle is Sandra_Bay Country Contractors. And you also can find me in the TCS app.
That's right. Way to plug that. Yeah, you can find us all in the TCS app.
You can.
Yeah, which is good.
And TCS Women and our podcasts are on there. So if you're not on the app, get on the app. That is where community starts. That's how we're going to connect with you. That's how I'm going to reach out to you. That's how I'm going to encourage you. So get on that app.
All right. Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. Thank you once again for being on here. I know we're going to have you back, but that's a wrap for today, guys. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning.